today. We'll transition now to our fireside chat, if you will, with Mayor Pat Halsey. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Halsey. The City of League City, Mr. John Buckhart. So, Mayor, we will kick it off with you, and we all know that you have been through the nightmare that is COVID personally, and just wanted to see how you're feeling.
Well, I'm feeling great. I have to tell you, I started to, and I've mentioned this in the newspaper, I came to understand what a lot of people were saying about COVID while I laid on my back looking at the ceiling for a month, not being able to see anyone. Loneliness is absolutely astronomical. It just is beyond description. And all night long, no offense, but all night long I heard these loudspeakers going off saying, rapid response team, go to room 4, whatever it was, the 4th floor. Well, that's where I was. And it was the COVID floor at Memorial Hermann Southwest, out on the west side of Sugar Land. And, you know, God is good. That's all I can tell you. God was very good to me, been very good to me over the last 3 years, as most of you know. And I am incredibly happy to be here today. It's like I look these things in the eye. Good Lord just sort of intercedes and gets me through these tough times. So I'm particularly happy. I'm feeling great. If I could just take an extra minute, I want to give a plug for one of our sponsors. But before I do that, UTMB kept me alive in the early years, so I don't want anybody to be slighted. We have great medical systems in this town. But as I have told all of you a million times, Rebecca Lilly and Ashley, back when I lost my leg and had 2 heart attacks, made sure that I got the life flight, got to Houston, got the best doctors that I could have, and I survived that deal. They also made sure when COVID came around, I was feeling bad. My wife Janice said, you know, what's the matter with you? I said, well, I'm kind of feeling like I did last year when I had double pneumonia. Immediately over to the urgent care center here in town. And, you know, they went up and they swabbed my brain and came back about an hour and a half later and said, you have COVID, put me in an ambulance. Took me to Noel's Hospital up there at Southeast Memorial. They didn't have enough beds. I don't know where I went after that. But ultimately, I ended up at Memorial Hermann Southwest. I want to acknowledge over here on this side are all the employees from the City of League City. Stand up. The reason I see a lot of my mayor friends here. I see new mayors. I see the gentleman from Dickinson. You know, I see Santa Fe. I see the county commissioners, and I'm appreciative that you would show an interest in what's going on in League City. We have exceptional leadership. John does an exceptional job as city manager. He has amassed a staff that produces a great deal. We ask an awful lot of it. And as we look out at what's getting done, these are the people who are making it happen. So, now on to your question. I feel great. I've been to 2 council meetings. You know, we work through issues. We're not always happy with one another. We fuss back and forth because they're strong-minded people. But the third component to the city's successes that we've been having is the city council. And it is a diverse bunch of people with different ideas of how this city ought to go. And as I look out at all of them, I'm heartened by that. Discourse is not necessarily hatred. It is just that, it's discourse. We all want to get to the same place, we just have different ways of getting there. And that's what makes a city, that's what makes a county, that's what makes a state legislature and Congress so effective. And it is what is so important to every one of us today. The democracy that we stand up for is not perfect. But it is the best and face of this planet. And it gives me great feelings to feel good, number one, and that I can get the kind of attention I get in the hospitals and have the friends I have that look out for me. And I look out and I see all of you who are leading your own communities and to see what's going on in League City. I'll be walking next time we do this. I'm coming to all of your chambers because this county is really important to all of us. And I think the county commissioners do a great job. We don't always agree, but they do a great job. And there are a lot of our vendors here today. I appreciate them. But most of all, I appreciate the thousands of notes, cards, phone calls, and everything that I got while I was laid up in that hospital. And some of them really shocked me. They didn't really like me. Right, Melissa? No, I'm joking. You know what they did? They sent cards. They kept up with me. And life is good. And God is good for all of us. So let's move on to the next day. And thank you for the opportunity to give my TV commercial and to thank everybody who has been so supportive during this difficult time.
Thank you, Mayor. It's great to have you here today and answer to prayer, like you referenced earlier. We'll transition over to Mr. Bumgarner for the next question. Keeping in the theme of COVID-19, I know the vaccine is at the top of a lot of our minds these days. Can you just talk about the city's involvement in terms of being able to work with other partners to vaccinate the residents of League City?
Sure, thank you. You know, the COVID vaccine and like everything COVID, has created challenges for everybody. There's no playbook for the pandemic. We see that you make a decision one day and get something else the next day. And the vaccine is just the next piece of that journey, probably the most important piece for us to regain some of the normalcy that we all want to get back to. We suffered the whole last year, and so I think that the biggest challenge, of course, is how much vaccine you're getting, and as I said, the playbook changes daily, weekly, etc. And so they're on kind of a path for distribution, and then the state changed the distribution to the hub system. And I think many of you know Galveston County wasn't identified as a hub originally, and so Judge Henry's office, the Commissioner's Court, they said this isn't good enough, and so they went to work right away. They contacted League City. We identified locations. Ultimately, they picked Walter Hall Park, and so as the county leads that effort, but it takes many partners in order to get that done. Again, getting vaccine probably is the most critical part, but county has reached out to us. We had a meeting a week ago, I believe, and it was on the MLK holiday. Public safety folks went there, the transportation folks went there, and looking for volunteers, looking for efforts, how we can support that. It's intended to be a large hub, as much as 5,000 or 6,000 vaccinations a day. And so we have worked collaboratively with the county and the health district, and then UTMB is part of that effort to get that hub set up. Again, as I said, it changes every day, how you get registered, and so the health district and the county is leading that effort. And we're proud of what they've done, proud to be a part of that, and looking forward to a successful effort to get Galveston County and the surrounding area vaccinated.
Very good, and that collaboration is key, most definitely. Mayor, despite COVID-19, the League City Council recently approved a property tax reduction for fiscal year 2021, and our local sales tax collection was higher than predicted. Share with us how League City's been able to remain financially strong during the pandemic, while some of the communities around us have not been able to perform as strongly.
Well, the short answer is location, location, location. We are the beneficiary of the location of where we are. People want to come here. And let me tell you, our future continues to be bright. We looked doomsday in the face, as all cities did, and I think the management of the city really held out. We have, I always kind of fuss at poor old Scott Livingston over there, who I think is one of the great guys. But we get, 200, 300, 400 new businesses in here a year. and that's been consistent as long as Scott has been with us. The southwest side of town is opening up. You know, it didn't take long before land developers were at us about, you know, what they wanted to do out there. We have brokered those relationships to try to prepare us for the economic development aspects of, you know, the town center at Bay Area Boulevard and the Grand Parkway. We have constantly tried to work with a transportation plan to move an ever-growing population around the city, but also around the region. And, you know, I'm glad, I'm glad to see Kim Clark on this team, because Kim Clark has been a big part of our transportation effort. But our property tax, it has been a goal of this council and previous councils all the way back to about 1994 and 5 to drop that rate. It has dropped almost 30 cents, which is what we have control over. The appraisals got a little bit out of hand, and everybody fussed about that. But if we're growing, we're adding new revenue as each year goes on. We're able to do that. Sales tax was a problem because, as all of you know, we tied our bond issue last year to a sales tax receipts. That was kind of a unique way of doing things. But at the same time, we dropped the rate. And it was unanimous vote. There was no argument amongst the elected leadership that we should do that. We know we live in a conservative community. And so, you know, we are fortunate, and that's why I said at the outset, we are location, location, location. As long as people keep coming here, we're in great shape. Now, not to mention, just because they made these notes, Doogie got all hooked up this year and wanted to have a committee that dealt with the businesses in town. We didn't want any business to go out. You know, the governor kind of stepped in and told us what we ought to do. And, you know, that's okay. We had to do something to slow down COVID. But that committee worked really hard. Dave Johnson, who comes to every meeting and puts a dashboard up on the wall for us to see how many COVID 19 cases we have, how many deaths we have, you know, where we're growing in numbers and where we're coming down, because educating the public has always been our attitude. It's called personal responsibility as opposed to dictating from the government what you should do. And in our community, people don't like to be dictated to. They like to be kind of coaxed into it. So, you know, we've been working at that, and we give a lot of credit to the chamber who worked with us on all this. You know, DeJuan has just got more energy probably than any of us. Of course, he's 40 years younger than Milliken and I, so, you know, he does have some energy. And good for him. You need that kind of leadership. And they partnered with us to help the business community. You know, Sarah in the chamber printed a guide to people in our community about shopping at home, which, you know, when money changes hands and we keep it here in our own businesses, it solidifies our own economy. It's in our own best interest to do that. I know it's easy to run to the mall, which we're all seeing on TV, or malls are becoming outdated. You know, we were up at a TxDOT, Texas Department of Highways and Transportation Forum. The world is changing. We know that there'll be drones dropping packages at our doorstep. We know, we see it every day. Cars are pretty much driving themselves, and they'll be driving all by themselves as time goes on. There will be drones for people. You know, we won't own cars in 30 years, according to the projections, but it is phenomenal to all of us how much technology has taken over our lives. And that offers some problems in labor-intensive businesses like the city. You know, I don't know, are we going to have a drone that takes a backhoe out that digs up the water line and fixes it, no people cost to it? I don't know where that's going, but the world is changing and we're changing with it. And we've been just fortunate COVID hit us hard, but I'm telling you, John held everybody on the straight and narrow. Our employees worked from home. He did everything that was possible to keep the institution moving. We're proud of him. We're proud of all the employees that got through that. Our police department maintains a low crime rate here, which is one of our deals. And I was particularly happy to meet our new school superintendent today, because that's the biggest driver we have for economic development, is that school district, and always has been. We're proud as we can be of them. We love Greg Smith, and we're going to love the new. Where'd he go? Did he leave already? Oh, well, he's busy, that's all right. But anyway, I think we stayed the course. We got through the difficult times, and I think that comes down to the leadership of the city council and the staff we have in this city. So, it's been a tough year. It's been a tough couple years, but here we are. College of the Mainland came up here and opened its doors. Warren over there has always had a dream of coming up to League City. We now have a college in town. We're waiting to see, how much we can help him expand, because those are our kids that are going to College of the Mainland. And, it's a lot easier to have them close. So we're trying to do the things that are attracting people here. I keep saying the Grand Parkway is going to be our golden egg on major economic development. It's coming. John's at them up there all the time about the traffic and revenue study. Let's get going. We hear from the engineers. Let's build a Grand Parkway. And it is going to complete, or in part, complete the circle. We still have Section A that goes from the freeway out to 146, but that's all right. I know Ken is all geared up to go back up to the textile and the legislature. We're always asked for the senator's help, and Representative Middleton and Dennis Paul, who's got part of the other side of League City, and Ed Thompson from Brazoria County has been a big help, and we appreciate him. He has been a champion for this. So, good things are happening. League City's future just as bright as it can be. And I'm proud of the chamber for weathering the storm last year. It hadn't been easy for businesses, I know that. We go in, when Janice and I finally got out, we go to some restaurants, and there was nobody there. And now we go in, we have to see how many cars are in the parking lot to see if it's safe to go through the front door. So League City's future looks very bright. We are going to double in size in the next 25 years. I have no doubt in my mind about that. And, we'll be a city somewhere in and around 250,000 people. Now, just to give you a comparison, when I moved here almost 50 years ago, there were 4,000 people that lived here. So we are a booming little metropolis. So that's it.
Incredible. Thank you very much. John, as we saw in the video, despite COVID, we certainly have major projects that are continuing throughout the city. Can you talk about some of those projects, as well as maybe just some insight in terms of what it's been like managing a city during a pandemic?
So I'll start with managing the city during a pandemic. I think, kind of the fundamental theme during times of crisis, people look to the city for some sense of normalcy. But during the pandemic and all the uncertainty when it started, we start with the public safety folks, the police, the fire, the EMS, the frontline folks in the Public Works Department. They never wavered. In spite of risks and having to go out there and how bad is COVID, and I think everybody knows our first story with COVID was our fire marshal's office. 11 of the 12 people all ended up either getting COVID or at least getting quarantined. And so it starts with, oh my God, how infectious is it? And so it created certainly some challenges and some expectations. But through that, we learned that we could adapt. We started with fire inspections virtually, how to keep the economy running, how to keep the community that's still building. And so the fire inspection piece of it worked with the building inspection department in partnership. And, they took pictures and approved permits and approved inspections, and I'm so proud of everything that they were able to accomplish. And then again, like we said, the folks in EMS and police, they never wavered. They came to work every day, full force, out on the streets. I think the mayor alluded to, no increase in crime or anything like that. And, we're there to assist people and help people and deal with all those issues. From an operations standpoint, the rest of the departments still try to keep things moving. Everybody in the room, we've all adapted to the, I guess they call it the Brady Bunch screen in the Teams meetings, in the Zoom meetings, and again, try to just keep businesses going. The council actually had a couple of those Zoom meetings, and they said, no, we're going to meet in person, and we're going to keep, government out there accessible to the people, and it wasn't behind a TV screen, and I'm proud of how they did that, how we've been able to have all the council meetings live except for two, and been able to address comments, and we've even adapted on how we get comments, we accept comments via message, and then people continue to come to the meetings. And then the things that maybe don't seem that important, recreational programs. We are a community of families, and the staff here at Hometown Heroes have been able to have first virtual recreation programs, but I think we were one of the first facilities to reopen and allow limited access to the building, in the way Kenny's been able to keep the facility healthy, keep the people that come to the facility healthy. I'm so proud of what they've done, and we continue those recreation programs. And again, everybody was at home. What are we going to do? What are the kids going to do? And recreation and sports is a big part of everybody's lives these days, and particularly in Lake City. And the library, very, very much the same. Keep the library open. Everybody closed down because it was non-essential. We started with curbside service so people could come and get materials, and then slowly expanded those services. And again, kind of the whole virtual library to keep people, again, connected to the community, connected to each other, and provide some alternatives to just, in lieu of just sitting around at home. They've been able to adapt. I'm so proud of everything they've all done. And then the last piece of that, of course, is just the human relations effort in our human resources staff. Because again, just like the country, the COVID is so polarizing. There are folks that don't think very much of it. There are folks that are extremely conservative with it, and there's folks in the middle that try to adjust all the emotions that come with that. And our human resources department has stayed with us, just much like police and fire and EMS, and they've never wavered. They've come to work. They've helped us manage through the testing, the quarantines, the changing of the rules. And again, I think other than kind of the initial issues with the fire marshal's office or fire administration office, we've done a great job keeping our folks healthy and be able to continue to serve the community over this past year and never miss a beat. And so that's been great. It's been supported by council. We've let people work from home, let people, but we had to have some paid administrative leave. The community's been supportive of all that. We work our way through this. And so we've been very, very happy with how we deal with COVID.
What would you say that you're most proud of that the city accomplished in 2020?
Well, I'm most proud that we have kept city services moving. I'm most proud of the response to COVID. And other successes is we've continued with the CIP, we've continued with the projects, and we've continued to be able to engage the community to make sure that we're building the projects that are important to and that we're getting the appropriate amount of public input in spite of all the COVID, in spite of every day is a new day, and whatever decision we made yesterday was wrong, and we've got a new decision to make today, and the very best with the information we've had each and every day.
And what would you say is the biggest challenge in terms of the biggest challenge in 2020?
Well, it's clearly the biggest challenge is COVID, and as we try to manage our way through running the city, we had no idea what revenues would do, and so we made lots of adjustment in anticipation that sales tax was going to completely go under, very conservative, and replacing people that had left and filling vacant positions. And so we tried to work our way through that. pay with minimal staffing, and we were blessed that our sales tax revenues actually stayed up, and we're able to go through and continue to provide the services that the community wants and needs during times of crisis.
Mayor, I'll ask you the same. What would you say is what you're most proud of in terms of what the city accomplished in 2020?
Well, there are several items, but I think the resiliency of our citizenry, you know, they didn't crumble, they didn't fall apart, they didn't want to break down doors, you know, or anything else. There was not that level of frustration. They were patient, they allowed us to try to experiment in some things, but I think the resiliency of our community, you know, I think the CIP milestones, projects like League Park that got done in the midst of this, the fire station number 6, which is a beautiful facility on South Shore Boulevard, the animal care and adoption center that's on Walker down from the city finally got its doors open. We refinanced $42 million in debt for a savings of $7 million to the city over the next 7 years. We kept our eyes on the ball. We didn't let that fall through. And the new national flood insurance community rating, one of only 4 cities in Texas to achieve a Class 5 designation. Now, the last one, which is a high frustration level for people in our town, is keeping our eye on TxDOT and I-45. When I was out, when they passed the baton to us, when I-45 had been expanded all the way down to NASA 1, I made the comment, there were several commissioners there and several state officials. I know it's frustrating, but this is the fastest I have ever seen TxDOT go after getting a project expanded in the middle of an urban center like all of us. And I think they're doing a good job. They're going all the way to Galveston. And yes, it's impacted us a little bit. Yes, the line at 518 in the freeway is 2 miles long at times. But once you hit that freeway, you got a straight shot. And what's best about that is that when the Grand Parkway gets done, not only we don't have to go up I-45, we're going to be able to go to the east on the Grand Parkway, we're going to be able to go to the west on the Grand Parkway, and as my friend Scott Livingston reminds us all the time, 65% of our working population goes to the energy corridor on the west side of Harris County. Getting them over there so that they don't overload a single artery is probably going to be the best thing that's going to happen to us. That's all there. And, you know, it takes time. But they're moving quicker. And I always tell this story, and I'm sorry, I got to throw it out there. At 5 years old, my family moved here from Florida. And my mother took us up to Gulfgate one day. And the freeway was torn up between Edgebrook and Gulfgate. And I said, Mom, when are they going to finish this freeway? And she looked at me and laughed and said, never. And here we are, 65 years later, we're still working on it. But that's okay. Every time they do, there are improvements for people in our community and for all the mayors and council people here from around the county. Those are improvements coming to you as well. So, you know, we're being patient. They did a great job. You know, the FM 270 trail, we have 120 miles worth of trails that are on the drawing board. Bike trails, running trails, walking trails, go to the grocery store trails. You know, I mean, interconnectivity within this city is a big deal. And Texas Parks and Wildlife has been great in providing us grants. Our Parks Department has done a good job of getting those. And it's a process, 125 miles. I thought was something we could do in a year or two. As you can tell, I'm impatient, but they are steady at it. We're talking to people in Harris County about connecting them up over there so we have trails that go to the north. And if you ever drive around at 6 in the morning, you'd be shocked at how many people in this town ride their bike to NASA. I mean, there's a whole mess of them running down 270. So it is a mode of transportation, it's clean, and we're trying to get that done so people in the future will have other ways to get around town other than, cars, which are dangerous. I mean, frankly, we don't pay good attention to that. Anyway, when I think about that, I think about all these people over here, and I think about John, because they have kept their eye on the ball. And when I say League City's looking good, it's because of all this. We had a public meeting the other night on the bond issue, and a lot of different ideas, but we are trying to move forward. And I don't think we stopped in the last several years, so that's what I'm most proud of.
A lot of folks, Mayor, don't realize that we have almost 50% of our city yet to be developed. And you mentioned earlier, the potential for the population to double over the next 25 to 30 years. Can you put a little bit finer point in terms of what the city's doing to prepare for that growth and prepare for that increase in population?
I will. We know that we're in a flat coastal prairie. And when you're in a flat coastal prairie this close to the coast, you're always going to be subject to flooding. Part of the bond issue was to try to bring up to date our internal drainage. But our eye on the future is that drainage from each one of these neighborhoods has to take care of itself. We, for 60 years in League City, had good drainage ditches, but we put it out in the creek until we overloaded, and we and everybody else in the watershed overloaded the creek. If we can't get water to the lake, we can't get water to the bay, it backs up. And the TxDOT was a big help. They elevated the bridges at I-45 so the water could flow. In my neighborhood, that's what backed up the water faster than anything was the I-45 access road bridges. Dickinson, Miles, same thing. And so, our committees have worked hard to infiltrate the regional drainage programs, and I think we'll be in a lot better shape going in the future. We've base elevated our houses for development. There are going to be a slew of houses on the southwest side of town, which is out 646, 517, where the Grant Parkway is. As much as I would have loved to see big commercial development out there, and I've talked about that a great deal, the first people at the door were big land developers. For 40 plus years, our attitude has always been new development should pay its own way. And that has happened. When you look at transportation and the list of things that Angie has to get done over here, we have a transportation plan. I mean, Landing Boulevard's going all the way to 517. Hobbs Road is going all the way to 517. Bay Area Boulevard is going all the way to 517. We know that Highway 96 will go over to Kevin City and Pearland and meet up, and we'll go through Friendswood. We are trying to get the major arteries connected so that people can move around town. At the same time, John has put money aside in our capital improvement budgets every year to try to improve the road beds that we have. We know transportation and drainage are our two big issues. We got roads on the north side being built today. We've got north-south thoroughfares on the east side of the railroad tracks. We're going to have them on the west side of the railroad tracks. So we're trying to do what we didn't do for 50 years before. We're trying to plan out, and that's a testament, truthfully. And one of the reasons I like to give credit to the staff people and to John, because that's a testament to them as well as the council to see where we have been in the last 50 years and try to turn that around to where we can get in front of the growth curve. So that's happening. And, it's a process. It's like everything else, much like education, much like your business. It grows in stages. But the second you take your eye off the ball, you fall through the hole. Keep your eye on the hole, or on the donut, not on the hole. So You know, those are exciting things. Drainage will look different in League City for new developments. And it's going to get paid for by the neighborhoods. You know, the city may maintain them, or maybe the homeowners will maintain them. We're doing it different ways. The county's building a big detention pond somewhere in the future up along Dickinson Bayou, Harris County, and all their folks, flood control people, are building a big detention pond up off of, what is it? What's that road? 1953 or Dixie Farm Road, whatever it is. So there are a lot of things happening in that regard, and a lot of partners. I give John a lot of credit and Milliken over here, because they went out and they got not only Galveston County to buy into that program, which will be ultimately be a core study on Clear Creek, they got everybody in the watershed to pay into that. You know, that's substantial. League City doesn't have to pay an exorbitant amount because we have partners all along the watershed who are interested. And, you know, it affects Santa Fe, it affects Dickinson, it affects everybody. And, you know, as we build out in this watershed, there's less pasture land to absorb water, and it got to go somewhere. And it naturally is going to flow to Dickinson, Bayou, and Clear Creek. And I'm really proud, not just of League City people, but I'm proud of this county for stepping to the plate and leading that charge. These are major issues that the future looks very bright on. So hang in there, keep an eye on what's going on. Nobody's going to let it fall through. You know, we're probably going to pick on Senator Taylor about seeing if they got any money at the state to pour into this, or the land office back there, Melissa. You know.
At least he's giving you a heads up.
Yeah, that's right. No, all our partners came together. We have made friends throughout the region, and that always comes back to help League City, and it helps the rest of you who are doing the same. When we went up on the Grand Parkway, my God, we had 100+ people take time away from work to go up to the Texas Department of Public Safety and make our case on 3 separate occasions about the importance of transportation down here. And, you know, we saved it, stayed on the state's plan, and we're still, I know John's calling every day to find out where the traffic and revenue study is, but we know that it's coming. It hasn't gone away. So we are preparing. Yes.
Very good. We have a few minutes left, and we have a few questions here that were submitted by the audience, so thank you for your participation. John, since you talked earlier about the library system and how the library was able to still serve our residents during 2020, I'll direct this library question to you. You probably can guess what it is, but what is the status of potentially building a library on the west side of League City in the future?
So we continue to look at library services. We had a study probably a little more than, I guess it was 2 years ago now. And certainly throughout the community, there's an express need to expand our library services. One of the things we said back in 2019 when we had the bond election, you know, it was enough after Harvey that we all rallied around the drainage and mobility issues. And we set that aside. The study, you know, has a very, very wide range of options, and they range from $30 million to $200 million. And at this time, we have not yet coalesced around kind of what is the vision. You know, I think right now the library is looking at perhaps maybe a smaller branch on the 16 acres we own out there on League City Parkway. But it hasn't been fully vetted by the library board. It hasn't been fully vetted by the council. It's kind of on that. We know we need to do something. And one of the things we think is important is to show the community we're ready to deliver projects. I know the mayor talked about Angie's group, Christopher's group, in the delivery of CIP. None of the projects moved fast enough, and so we're really going to focus on that. The library's out there on the horizon. We'll continue to work with the library groups and the council to get that vision and get it solidified and start that process.
Very good. The mayor also touched on drainage, and obviously drainage is one of the top priorities year after year for our residents. The question here is asking for an update regarding the Bay Ridge drainage project. If y'all might have an update to share with that.
That's so when we started the bond program, again, I think we talked about 23 projects and 20 different neighborhoods that it affects. As we started to develop that program, we started with probably the hardest hit neighborhoods, Bay Ridge being one of the first ones out the door with engineering. And the Bay Ridge solution is really 4 different projects. The first of those projects was the internal drainage, the one that affects the residents day in and day out. It affects their ability to go to work, take their kids to school, get their emergency services. And so that project was awarded in October by the council. And so we go award and then we get the contract signed. And so we anticipate that work starting in February. And there's about 10 different work sites within the Bay Ridge neighborhoods for that. The second, and the most important as it relates to getting them out of the floodplain, or getting them out of the 100-year flood, is increasing the amount of detention, putting in pump stations so that the detention pond can drain and come by you. That project is ready for bid. It will be bid in February, awarded by council in March, probably under construction by May. So those are the 2 biggest Bay Ridge projects that are ready to move forward for construction. So it's right on the horizon. We'll start to see the big yellow machines come in and the dirt and the debris. We'll appreciate the Bay Ridge folks that have to put up with that construction. Obviously, the end is getting near. And then there's some other projects. There's another project that can buy you that benefits all the neighborhoods along that. Engineering continues. The prices go up as it goes through several iterations. We work on. We've got grants for some stuff, and how to move the money around so that we can continue to keep that project moving. So the Bay Ridge projects are the first out the door. They're going to be the first under construction, and we'll see that getting underway.
Wonderful. This last question here I'll also direct to you. We touched on the budget earlier and the fact that our city's tax revenue has remained in a good standing. The question is, how has the city's budget been affected by the pandemic?
Well, as I said before, we took a very conservative approach to the pandemic. Came forward. We did the best we can to hold down our expenses. Before we knew we were going to get grants for COVID-related activities and stuff like that, and the state government, the federal government came through. The city was awarded about $5 million in COVID-related grants to help offset some of those expenses. And so we've weathered the COVID budget piece pretty well. We came forward with a conservative budget this year, at a minimum amount of things. And so we've stayed within the budget. I think we'll see at the end of the year we're going to add to the reserves a little bit, and that will allow us to direct more money, more funds to continue the capital projects that the community wants. There are always more project ideas than there are funds, and so this will give us a little bit of flexibility.
Very good. We have been fortunate for sure. And Mayor, I will end the discussion with the last question for you. And the question from the audience, with changing needs in land use, class office space, more residential needs, will zoning be adjusted to reflect these changes?
Well, I think it will. We have been, for at least the last 5 years, trying to get Class A office space here. But to get that Class A office space, you got to attract the companies to populate those office buildings. And Scott has a humongous job trying to attract people down here. I think as time goes on, just the fact that all good things come to a head, and tax rate being low, cost of living in Galveston County is certainly better than our surrounding areas. I think we're going to be attracting, we have not been able, for the most part, to attract a great deal of space business over here. We had hoped, and we continue to hope, that the hospital systems that are populating League City's landscape will bring additional economic development. We have pharmacy companies all over the country. They love to be close to the major medical centers. We have one in Houston. We certainly have, we're building a small one out on the freeway here at League City. Scott's at that every day. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He's constantly calling and keeping up with them. We have not given up on the fact that but land use and zoning pretty much is where we envision the city going. There'll be modifications to it, but I don't see major changes other than to accommodate. You have to be flexible. Good part of economic development is just pure luck in this guy. Janice opened up the paper yesterday and saw the good fortune that Lamarck had with a distribution center from what's the name of that bunch? Amazon going down there. Well, of course, we wanted Amazon up here. But that's what, economic development has become a competitive business. And you got to be willing to do what's necessary to get these big companies in here. Well, we're happy for Lamarck. Mayor over here, I guess he's still here. Yeah, he is. Yeah. Congratulations to you. And that's a good deal. We're going to come down and figure out what you did, right? And we're going to try to copy you and see if we can get the next one. But anyway, anything that solidifies the county solidifies all of us. It's not how big a slice of the pie any of us get. It's how big we can make the pie and how we can secure the economy of this county. Because, I'm always amazed at how many people in League City drive or have been driving down to UTMB, and how many people continue to take the buses down to UTMB, and they live up here. A lot of the doctors, a lot of the professional people live up here. Well, that's great. And, hopefully Dickinson's going to get a slice of that action. Santa Fe probably already getting a slice of the action because everybody in this county is growing. And working together to accommodate that growth is the battle cry for all of us. And so, it's a good deal. The school district is growing. We are finally in a position over here where new schools are coming in to League City, coming into Keenan, coming in on the edges of Friendship, and we waited a long time for that here because we built all those and helped pay to build all those schools in Clear Lake. And we see that as a benefit to us as well. So the bigger it is, the better it is. And we've got finally gotten to the point in this county where we actually have some heavyweights who can help us with that development. When I was in the hospital, Ken Clark called me on my birthday, and I told him, you are the key to the transportation issues that are of interest to all of us. He is at the forefront of keeping us involved in that, and he has the contacts there in Washington, and I saw him this morning, first time I've seen him, and I'm so happy to see him back because he's still going. And he's gonna keep going for a while. His job is not over, and we're counting on him to help us with the Grand Parkway and the other major projects, expansion of our farm-to-market roads. They're carrying a bigger load. I was sort of surprised the other day. I'm sorry, and I'll end it on this. I read in the paper that somebody put out the census results. And I was absolutely shocked to see League City at 110,000 people. I thought we had grown. I'm running around telling people, oh, we're up at 120. I'm sure the water department will bear that out. But I guess it didn't. But, in spite of what the last several years have looked like, we continue to grow. The rest of the cities in this county are growing. The north end is just on fire. Every city up here is feeling the good things that are happening. Texas City is moving, Dickinson's moving, Lamarck, Hitchcock, Santa Fe are all moving. And, we're moving together. And that's the best part of it. So congratulations to all of you, and thank you for this morning.
Thank you. Please join me in a round of applause. And we chamber. Your ending comment there was spot on in terms of working together as a region. And that really is what the chamber is focused on, and I think evidenced by the business leaders that are here today and the elected officials and other community leaders that are here today. We are all certainly of a mindset of working together as a region to better this entire region of the state. So thank you again for that partnership and for your support of the chamber. And one